Hey there, my name's Brashler, and in this video, I want to talk to you about the Waves plugin called Feedback Hunter. Now, Feedback Hunter is a great tool that you can use while doing setup of your PA and your monitor wedges, and be able to ring out your wedges in a very fast way that doesn't actually include much feedback through the PA, which is really great if you're setting up your PA while your client is in the room. You don't want to have all this feedback going through the PA because then the client in the room is going to hear that feedback and instantly have worries about their show and if there's going to be feedback happening during their show. So one great thing about the Feedback Hunter is that it doesn't really include much feedback through the actual PA, which is great. If you set it up in the right way, it doesn't happen. But let's actually dive in and see how this works. Now, I'm going to talk about two different ways of using this plugin. First, I'm going to talk about inserting it on your monitor wedge bus. Then the second way of doing it is I'm going to talk to you front of house engineers that are also doing monitors through your desk, and we're just going to duplicate your vocal mic with two channels. One channel will end up going to front of house through your PA, and the second channel will go to the wedges specifically for your vocalist to use that microphone on stage. Now, the first way that we're going to talk about is using this plugin on the monitor bus. So I have this microphone, check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and at some point when I turn this up enough and I start pointing this microphone, I'm going to cause some feedback here. Now, what happens is feedback, obviously, is the microphone picking up the speaker and re-amplifying that. And that's why it takes off and just goes very loud very quickly, because once that sensitivity frequency comes into the microphone, it goes into your console, back through the speaker, and it just creates this feedback loop. Now, there's other ways that we can adjust this feedback. We can use EQ, which is going to be the primary way of reducing feedback. Now, if you have too much EQ adjustment, you need to look at how your PA deployment is for your wedges. So for instance, with this, if this was a front of house mix and this was my left-right speaker, it shouldn't be pointed at the stage. But in this case, I wanted to cause some feedback for us to be able to do this video. So I have this set so it's not super loud in room, but check 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and at 6 dB, it definitely takes off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up my monitor wedge, and I have it right here, and I'm going to go and add in the plugin, and it's under Other, and it's called Feedback Hunter. Now, this is Feedback Hunter. It's a very, very simple setup. We have a couple different adjustments down here. We have our noise level. Now, the noise level adjusts how much noise is going to go out through your wedge for this detection to work. Now, the next thing that we have is our headroom. Now, this is going to be how similar frequencies across the entire band do we want to have. And so by default, this is going to be -4, which gives you a 4 dB headroom across all the frequencies on the frequency band. We also have a low adjustment and a high adjustment. And so this is going to be important because for most monitor wedges, I'm typically going to be doing a 100 hertz roll-off. Now, if you have a monitor wedge that has a bigger woofer, you might want to slide that down just a little bit. Or if you have, say, a QSC like K8 that doesn't have a big woofer, you might want to bring this up so it's not producing erroneous data. Now, the next thing that we have is our setup button. Now, that's actually how we engage this plugin to actually produce sound and do its algorithm for finding the feedback. And then the very last thing that we have is this depth. Now, this can be treated as a mix knob. At 100%, it is fully engaged. At 50%, it is letting 50% of the original signal through and affecting 50% of the signal. And then, of course, if we take this all the way down to 0, it is uninserting itself with our EQ adjustments. So All we have to do is take this, turn up our microphone into our wedge at about the volume that we want to have this. And so in this case, I'm wanting this to be about this loud, and we can see that I'm getting a little bit of feedback here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my microphone through the wedge, and I'm just going to press setup. Now, this is going to produce a warning on your screen saying that this is going to produce a loud continuous noise through your PA. So wherever you have this plugin inserted, it's going to generate noise and cause that noise to go down through the speaker back into the microphone, and it's going to detect it and start adjusting it. So just make sure that there's no one on stage that is in the path of that speaker. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and press OK, and it's going to cause this noise to come through. And just like that, it's done. So at this point, we can tell that there is no feedback, and I'm going to go ahead and take this louder. Check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we're about 4 dB louder at this point, and I have a few little frequencies that are coming through. But this is, again, 4 dB louder than the amount of headroom that we wanted to set on this microphone from the beginning, which is fantastic. So not only is this sounding nice and loud in this monitor wedge, but I'm not getting any feedback through this microphone, which is great. So this is the first way of setting this up. We are taking all of our microphones and turning them on while those wedges are enabled. And so if you have multiple wedges on stage, I would choose the microphones that are going to be in front of those wedges. So say you have 2 wedges for your lead singer downstage center, I would be inserting this feedback hunter on both of those wedges, or if you have a single monitor bus for those pair of wedges, that's going to be the best way of doing this. But inserting this plugin, having that microphone downstage on a stand or wherever the musician would be standing, turning it up to that full volume that you would be having, and then pressing setup. And then this is going to then go and set up that wedge for this feedback reduction. Then you would move on to the next wedge. So say monitor 2. Now maybe this is your drum wedge for your drummer and he has a microphone. Well, same setup. We would go add plugin, we would go to our plugin list, other, and then we would go and add our feedback hunter, and we would do that microphone for that drummer in this monitor wedge. Now the other way of doing this is to have this inserted on 2 channels. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and remove these from both of these mixes. And I'm going to go to my channels, and we have right here mic 1. Now I'm also going to make a M dash mic 1. Now this is how I designate if it's a monitor channel or a front house channel. Is for any monitor channels, I'll put an M and then the channel name, mic 1. So for this channel, what I'm going to do is I need to make sure that my patch is the same. So we can go to patch and we can go inputs, and we can see that I have my mic 1 on input 1. And so M mic 1, I'm going to also put on input 1. Now, the great thing is when you're adjusting your gain on one of the channels, it's going to adjust it for the other channel as well because it is sharing the same input. And if I go and talk into this microphone, check 1, 2, 1, 2, we will see on our screen that both of these channels are seeing this mic. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to click into our monitor channel and remove it from the left-right bus. And so now we have this removed. Now, for myself, I'm going to choose to have this microphone be post-fader and set this up like I would a monitor console. So what I would do is I would go to my monitors and I would set this up to be post. And then I am going to then have my channel at 0. So check 1, 2. And so at this point, because this is post and I start turning these on, if I have feedback during show, I can quickly go to where I have this channel buried to, which is usually going to be on my custom fader, 7, for instance. I can go to 7 and I can turn the monitor level down for all of the monitors with this single fader, which is going to be very helpful. Now, this is the same way that I would set up a monitor console. If I was a monitor engineer, I would be mixing in a post fader setup. Now, if you are doing a front of house show and you're sharing the same channel, you would want your monitor wedges to be sent pre-fader, because as we're adjusting the volume mid-show and I'm turning that vocal microphone up or down during that show, I'm not wanting it to affect the sends for those monitors. But because this monitor channel is set up specifically for monitors, I'm going to set it up as a post fader channel. So with that post fader channel, I'm going to leave this at 0. I'm then going to go to all of my wedges and turn them on. And so for monitor 1, this is going to be where we want our channel going to this monitor 1. So we have this microphone ready. It's at unity gain here, and I'm going to just start turning this up in this monitor wedge and getting it set to the volume that I want it for this musician. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so say this is the volume that I want to have this for this musician. We can hear that there's a little bit of feedback that's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go add plugin, and I'm going to go to other and go to Feedback Hunter. Now I'm going to go and then press Setup. And this again is going to produce noise through this microphone to all the destinations that it's going to, and then do a test to see what EQ adjustments should be put on this microphone for being sent through those wedges. So now I'm just going to go ahead and press Setup and press OK. Now, at this point, I can start talking into this microphone. And as I'm getting louder and closer to this, I'm not getting any feedback. Now, we noticed that earlier, when I was right here and kind of quiet, there was a little bit of feedback happening. Now, what's great about this is that I have this channel dedicated for my monitors. And so this is nice and loud in the monitor wedge for my musician. Now, if I start turning up my front of house channel, now we can all of a sudden hear that through our mix. But this channel that I have for front of house is completely independent from the monitor channel. And so I have done all of this EQ only for the monitor channel. So I haven't done any EQ on the channel that's going to my front of house mix. And so I can really cut up the EQ and not worry about the tonality sound for the front of house mix, because I have a dedicated channel of this vocal mic specifically for the front of house mix. So again, this is 2 different ways that we can use Feedback Hunter. I showed you how to use Feedback Hunter on the actual monitor bus, and then I also showed you how to create a double channel or a dual patch for these channels, and then use that second channel specifically for monitors. Now, if I'm during the show and all of a sudden I'm getting some feedback down those monitor wedges, all I have to do is go to my channel fader for those monitors on that mic and then just turn it down. And I've now turned it down by however many dB I adjusted it down for all of the wedges that that microphone was being sent to, which is, again, how I would be using the channels for a monitor mix that way. Now, I hope this video was helpful for you today. Now, if you want to find out more about Waves Feedback Hunter, there's a link down in the description below. And the great thing about this plugin is it is compatible with both native and SoundGrid devices. So if you are using a SoundGrid device, you can use this plugin. Also, if you are using Waves SuperAct Performer, you can also use this plugin, which is fantastic. Now, if you do happen to have any questions, or there's a plugin that you're hoping that I would cover on the LV1 or Waves or really anything that's out there, please post that in the comment section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that can be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day.